And good afternoon, everyone. John Harper here with you on SpaceCoastDaily.com. Delighted to be with you, and we have an interesting guest here this afternoon to talk to. We also have Rebecca.
Hello, everybody with Space Coast Daily
to help us out here and talk to our guest. Our guest is a prominent attorney here in Brevard County, and that's Terrence O'Sullivan. And Terrence, thanks for being with us here on the radio. We appreciate it. You are a criminal defense attorney. Why don't you tell us, first of all, the difference between a regular attorney and a criminal defense attorney?
Well, thank you, John, for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and Rebecca.
We're delighted.
I've been an attorney for 23 years, and obviously attorneys practice in different areas. For the past 23 years, I've done exclusively criminal defense.
Criminal defense, certainly an area of law that a lot of people are interested in as far as how you represent cases, what's involved, the drama, a lot of drama it seems, and what goes into preparing for a criminal defense case?
Well, there's a lot going on. You start with the arrest, and you have to find out whether or not law enforcement has probable cause to make an arrest. In the state of Florida, when you get arrested, within 24 hours you see a judge, and that judge determines whether or not there was probable cause for an arrest, and then sets a bond. And then from there, you start having to gather evidence, having my investigator interview witnesses, and finding out what the state is trying to do.
And you're very familiar with, how many cases have you tried?
I've gone to trial probably about 100, and I've probably dealt with, over the last 2 decades, about 10,000 cases, give or take.
Wow.
That is quite a few. How did you get involved with criminal defense work?
Well, when I went to law school in South Florida, I was lucky enough to get an internship at the Miami-Dade County Public Defender's Office. And after that, they hired me. And I worked for them for several years before I opened up my own firm.
How do you manage in your mind and in your law practice dealing with some of the people that you have to represent? Sometimes they have committed heinous crimes, and a lot of people who are watching, looking, reading at what you're doing, they oftentimes wonder, how can he represent that man or that woman? How do you handle that?
It's the great thing about being in America is that everyone has a right to present evidence on their own behalf. You're innocent until proven guilty. The government has to prove you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. We have a right to confront witnesses and challenge evidence. And at the end of the day, it's up to a jury to decide whether that person is guilty or not. But everyone has a right to their defense and to their day in court.
There are so many TV programs on these days, so many articles written in magazines, newspapers, and here on the radio, talking about criminal cases and how they evolve. How do you represent a client? Do you really, when you're assigned a client and you're involved with that client, do you really get to know that person, and you really want to understand what he or she is all about to give you a good insight on how to handle the defense?
Well, absolutely. There's the client and there's the facts of what the police say happened, but it's also important to dig into that client's history, which is why I have my paralegal, I have psychologists and investigators on staff. We want to find out holistically what exactly is happening with that entire situation. So it's not just about challenging the evidence, it's finding out the full picture and looking into why did this happen, how did it happen, and was it reported accurately by law enforcement.
We're talking, by the way, to criminal defense attorney Terrence O'Sullivan. And Terrence, what have you found throughout the years? You've represented so many cases, and how many did you say you've represented?
I don't keep track. It's been 20 plus years. I would imagine at least 10,000.
And then seeing a lot from Miami.
10,000, and What's one of the more interesting cases that you can share with us without giving us any names, but some of the cases that you feel have been rather interesting and you won?
Well, in addition to being licensed in the state of Florida and all federal courts in Florida, I'm also licensed in Washington, D.C. So I did represent a gentleman from Florida on a January 6th case. And that was a very interesting case. Obviously,
very big one.
lots of people know that. That was newsworthy. And I was able to keep him out of jail and get him back to work and get him back with his family. So that was important to me. But over the years, I've had a lot of interesting cases.
Terrence O'Sullivan is our guest on this edition of SpaceCoast.com. And Terrence, how can people reach you?
Exactly.
The easiest way is to call my cell phone. You can also call the office. Or
You also
can
have
go
a
to-
website?
I do have a website. It's tolawfla.com. You can reach me there virtually 24/7. I always am available to my clients and their families 24/7 because, criminal defense is not a 9-to-5 job. People get arrested at midnight and they need representation that morning in court. So if you call me, I will answer.
That's good to know. Terrence O'Sullivan.
That's very confident in knowing that.
Terrence is a criminal defense attorney here in Brevard County, and I assume you're licensed to practice within the state of Florida, right?
Correct. A vast majority of my cases are in Brevard County. I live and work about a mile from the Moore Justice Center in Viera, so most of my cases are in Brevard, which is kind of comfortable because I have a good relationship with the prosecutors and the judges. I do also take out-of-county cases, if it means that much to me and the family needs me. And I'm also licensed, like I said, in all federal courts in Florida and Washington, D.C.
Terrence, throughout the years, you said you've been involved for a long time now with criminal defense. How, back in your days in Miami, did you get involved in criminal defense?
Well, during law school, I wanted to do an internship to learn trial skills. And I was lucky enough to get a internship at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office, which is the second biggest law firm in the country.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And during that internship, even as an intern, I was able to try jury trials. So, before my classmates even graduated law school, I was in front of a jury trying cases, and I just fell in love with it, and I realized the need that ordinary, everyday people, they need someone to advocate on their behalf.
How important is it to know how to act in front of the jury? Do you and your team spend a lot of time going through possible jurors and selecting the ones that you want to be in front of?
Well, jury selection is one of my favorite things to do. Generally a judge, depending on the charge, will bring 50 or 100 local members of the community up, and I just get to have a conversation with them and talk to them about their beliefs, their preconceived notions, and basically ask them, are you the right juror for this case? And it's a very good opportunity to talk to the people of the community, and then me and my client, and if they have family present, we discuss, who do we think is going to be the best juror to be fair and impartial.
So the client is part of the decision.
Absolutely. While I'm the lawyer, the client's the boss. The client makes all the decisions, whether we take a plea or go to trial. Obviously, I have a lot of experience, but my client, at the end of the day, has to make all the decisions because it's their freedom at stake, and that's about the most important thing in the world.
That's good to know. Very interesting indeed. Terrence O'Sullivan, our guest, defense attorney here on SpaceCoastDaily.com. And Terrence, it's just a fascinating aspect of law that you're involved in. And Rebecca, I don't know if you had an additional question for Terrence?
Again, for everybody to know, what is the website to get in contact with you?
It's tolawfla.com.
There we go. Okay.
Terrence, before we wrap up, who do you admire in defense work? Who's somebody that is outstanding that you look up to as well?
Oh, that's a great question. There are a lot of pioneers before me. Honestly, what I like to do is just read what's called the Florida Law Weekly, and those are very esteemed judges who write different opinions, and by reading all those opinions, you get an idea of what the judiciary is looking for, and you keep learning what the law is and how to apply it for the best results for your client.
So it's an ongoing situation that you're involved in, constantly studying, reading, understanding what other trials are about, what other defense attorneys are doing or what they have done, and it's just fascinating. I hope we can have you back here on spacecoastdaily.com and talk more about the work of a criminal defense attorney.
One of the best advice I ever received as a lawyer was as a first-year assistant public defender is to do three things. Try as many cases as you can, always be in contact with your client, and read the Florida Law Weekly, which is the new law, which is opined by the judges every week. And those are
Excellent.
three things that are a must-do for every attorney.
Excellent. Terrence O'Sullivan, defense attorney here in Brevard County, the state of Florida, and in Washington, D.C.
In federal court in Washington, D.C.
Right. And a great background. Terrence has been in defense attorney work for 25 years?
23 years.
23 years. And he's a great person to know and to trust, and we would strongly advise you get in touch with Mr. O'Sullivan. Again, Terrence, your phone number?
The office line is 321-422-2882. And if you can't reach me there, my cell phone is available 24/7. 321-848-2144. Or you can just Google my name, Terrence O'Sullivan.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Terrence. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And Rebecca, thank you as well.
Thank you.
And that will do it for this segment on spacecoastdaily.com. And again, we want to thank defense attorney Terrence O'Sullivan for being our guest this afternoon.
Space Coast Daily is Brevard's most trusted news. Through spacecoastdaily.com and Space Coast Daily's social media reach, hundreds of thousands of people stay informed every day. Through Space Coast Daily's unmatched digital reach with the Space Coast Daily's direct mail newspaper and Space Coast Daily the magazine in print, our loyal and engaged viewers enjoy free local news they can trust every day, and all at no charge thanks to our successful advertising clients. And also at our special events at Space Coast Daily Park in Vieira, where hundreds of thousands of people see our clients' advertisements. Call today to get your message seen on Space Coast Daily and take your business to new heights. Get launched with Space Coast Daily. Call 321-32